Hey, what's up? Welcome back. I'm Ryan. I wanted to make a video kind of catching us up on some of the ideas I've had. I was gone for Fashion Month, so I know it seems like I'm not available and I was like completely absent, but I guess I'm not trying to be like, follow me on Instagram, follow me on TikTok. You don't have to, but that's where I've been, and I've been posting all of the like shows I've been to and all of my thoughts and some of my ideas and stuff. I feel really horrible when I'm not on YouTube and people are like, you didn't upload in a month. I'm like, I've been uploading like every single day on everything else. I'm not going to go on a press trip towards the end of this month because I want to be able to be here to film. I'll just stay here so that we can actually work through the things that are happening in fashion and think about them together. That sounded very like virtue signaling. I just wanted to be clear that like I'm a great person. I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. I just wanted it to be clear that like I really do try to be consistent. There's just always so much going on. Okay. So the first thing on the chopping block is Margiela's Line 2 is a series of intangible products created with artists about connection, not products. And it's going to be in Seoul at Frieze. So Margiela's number line is how you can make distinctions between different aspects of the fashion house. They have Margiela 6, which is the diffusion line essentially that makes it more accessible. The different numbers at the House of Margiela are the different categories of offerings from the brand. Frieze is an art festival. And so there is this long history in fashion of artists working with high fashion designers. The House of Prada is known for their contributions to the arts and how much they fund independent artists and filmmakers and just creative ventures for very on the fringe kind of subversive art that progresses culture. They also have the Miu Miu Tells and Tellers event that I think a lot of people heard about, and it was covered. Things like this are very common in the high fashion world, right? There's such a connection between the fashion world and the art world. They depend on each other, not only for like concept and philosophy and theory that informs what's being designed. There are so many aspects of art that are directly connected to high fashion. Yeah, I think that there's a benefit here of the House of Margiela offering these intangible products in order to not add more waste to the world, right? And then develop some deeper brand storytelling, reminding people to conceptualize fashion beyond just being able to consume it. Also challenging people to develop as artists and creatives and critical thinkers to engage the fashion world, right? I want people to think as people who can create and invent and offer something. It doesn't even mean that they have to. Just put yourself in that mindset. I think art allows you to oppose structures and systems of power, and institutions that encourage people to engage the arts are positioning themselves to be actively confronted. If you are, a fashion house, I was just reading about this. I'll read you some of the stuff I was writing. But if you are a fashion house and you're kind of inviting people to critique you, obviously Mark Fisher from in Capitalist Realism would argue that like it's a natural inclination of capitalism to allow you to critique it. But in fashion, for a brand to invite people in to engage the arts, they know that that means that their audience will be more critical of the fashion that they disseminate and more able to offer like philosophical and conceptual criticisms toward it that aren't just like, oh, it's cute or it's ugly. They know that then they'll start being able to be like, how is this brand culturally positioned, especially for a house like Margiela. So I think it's really interesting. I was writing about how, and I made a video about how Christelle Oyiri complicated her relationship with the Tate Museum and her ability to exhibit her own work there because of the colonial roots of institutions like museums, including the Tate. Museums know that people are going to do this, though. They're offering the space to be critiqued because they acknowledge what's wrong. And also the people who work in museums today didn't found them and didn't decide to, steal artifacts and position themselves in terms of colonial power, right? These are people who are critical of that, but respect and patronize and want others to patronize the arts. So they are able to offer that same space for criticism. And also, according to Capitalist Realism by Mark Fisher, critiquing these forms of power doesn't dismantle them, and it's inherently built into these systems of power that people will challenge them. And it always works out fine because it doesn't stop them from existing, nor the institutions that prop them up when we challenge them. So in terms of how this serves us overall, I wrote that whether you're able to directly engage what's happening at Frieze with Margiela or not, this idea of even having Line 2 reinforces the aspect of fashion that my work orients itself around, which is like we need to think and talk about the world together. We have to talk about culture and art together. We just do, you know what I mean? Especially talking to people who we wouldn't normally come into contact with, not just our friend groups, not just people who we already know we agree with. Like we kind of have to be challenged by each other to be in conversation with these things. Like I just found out, I think recently, like 1,700 people on Twitter. And it's because if I see people in an argument on fashion Twitter, I follow both sides. I think this is what all art is about. Is challenging yourself to see things in a different way. Otherwise, why even view someone else's perspective, So I was also reading today It's not Mark Fisher, but it's pretty much saying the same thing. It was this article. Let's see all these damn notes. Okay, so I was reading Destruction in Contemporary Fashion Design by Agata Zaborowska. It's like a group of analyses that allow you to critique the idea of like deconstructed fashion, where fashion houses, including Margiela, Comme des Garçons, etc., will offer these critiques of the fashion industry using their work, and also critiques of the beauty industry and Western beauty standards and ideals, etc., in their work, and critique fashion systems and commercialized fashion and the processes and systems that position us to show 2 times a year in Fashion Week, etc., at least 2 times a year. It makes you critique all those things, and yet they are operating within that system. The next thing that I wrote about in, I think, June, but I never got to publish the video on, is Dollar Store Couture. It's this really interesting brand that's based in Brooklyn, and they kind of combine and reconfigure and idealize beauty, body shapes, fashion shapes using existing objects. And I talked about how I do think that there's a sense of futurism in reusing and repurposing. I think sustainability is the only way towards the future. And I wrote about this a lot, I think, in 2020. We're going to have to use found objects. And I think it's really important to be confronted with people actually doing that, not just like creating the semblance of that on the high fashion runway, especially brands that actually repurpose things that they, like objects are Hodakova. They'll use like dead stock fabric. They'll use existing objects. I also believe what used to be called All In does that as well, where they'll use dead stock fabrics or thrifted or secondhand vintage pieces, etc., to create some of their work. This is actually sustainable. I liked to challenge myself to search, and I also liked to challenge myself to appreciate weird new things. It was almost like thrifting at the dollar store. So I don't know, there's a lot that I can appreciate about this collection, the way that they represented, I think, a similar idea of finding things that would otherwise be discarded or overlooked and then turning them into fashion for the runway. I also have some of my oomph modeled, so I thought it was really cool and I wanted to bring that one up. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about, I actually just realized I can't say online, and I hate bumbling around the actual words. I think Laura Pitcher just wrote for Dazed about this concept. It might not be for Dazed, but I think it was about this concept of how we use fake terms to avoid censorship on apps like TikTok, and how that changes language and the implications of it. And I believe that she spoke to like people who are linguistic experts and things like that. So I'm gonna link that down below. But chic, like the aesthetic from the 90s. Interesting thing is, chic is a misunderstood and misrepresented style itself. It is covered in this really great article on The Face, where they chronicle the shift from grunge photography by Corinne Day into the hair chic aesthetic, and it's most notably associated with fashion photographer Davide Sorrenti, who tragically passed away at 20 years old. In this era, he was known for this really intimate, dark image, visual language in his photography, and it seemed to capture that energy of the culture at the time. And when he passed, the media and a lot of the fashion public, and also like the mythology afterwards and like online fashion communities, they suppose that he passed away from each of heroin, and he has been like wrongfully connected to this part of fashions and pop culture's issue at the time, suggesting that he was one of the tragic losses of this time as a result of heroin. But he wasn't. He actually passed from an unrelated long-standing health issue, according to this article in The Face. And I think that the tragic loss of Davide Sorrenti has been divorced from reality and history, context, and it seems like the fashion public continues to conflate use and kind of darker aesthetics in order to kind of glamorize this aspect of fashion. There's been a conversation online that kind of came and went, and I'm glad I wrote it down because I love talking about Twitter drama essentially, but like online discourse and sociocultural communities and da-da-da-da. But like there was a H-chic conversation on Twitter, and I don't think I agree with the way that it went down. So the discourse is that people are describing Jenna Ortega's red carpet images as such, as well as Hunter Schafer's, and describing it as like that kind of chic look. And people have been misusing that term for the last couple of years, and I think it's irresponsible and it's unnecessary, because what they're describing is like glam and grunge and things like that. The people are literally not on that, so there's no point in describing how they look as that aesthetic. Like that aesthetic does not come out of nowhere, and when we kind of obscure and overlook and kind of ignore the meaning of words and terms, and we change them to be like, you know what I mean, we are losing meaning too quickly. It's literally not what that term refers to or what it means. It's like goth glamour, 2006 MySpace aesthetic. Everything was dark eyeshadow, smoky eye. You could say it's romantic, Tom Ford era Gucci gowns, messy hair. You can literally just describe it in detail, but this need to like simplify and reduce everything and shorthand everything into nonsense gibberish, I think is not super productive. And it's also insulting and doesn't offer consideration to the people you're describing. Like, I don't really think it's appropriate to project onto real people the idea that they are on H and doing H chic just because they have on a smoky eye. That doesn't make sense. It's not appropriate. We're being very irresponsible lately. The aesthetic, H chic, was informed by the social conditions of the time, which led to that kind of use, right? There are more apt ways of representing this time and more apt ways of describing that time, and also leaving it in the past and just letting it have been the aesthetic that it was, instead of pretending that the only way that we can describe the present is through nostalgic terms that we don't fully understand. Like, just describe another term, like create or invent another term. Dylan Ali pointed out, like, a smoky eye and a dark gown does not make H chic, and shout out to Dylan Ali for always being funny on Twitter, but like there's full truth to that. So that's what I wanted to point out. I just think we're getting really irresponsible and loosey-goosey with some of the terms in a way that's really, really scaring me. We have too much of a literacy and education crisis for us to just catch a vibe every time we are trying to talk about something happening. Another thing that I talked about on TikTok, but I could tell nobody actually understood what I was saying. I made a word salad version of a video, but what I was talking about is like the Raven Tracy / BBL tracksuits, people wearing like athletic clothes. I don't even want to call it athleisure. These are like actual workout clothes, but they're meant to be like sexy or attractive and appealing. Okay, so I wrote about self-improvement culture signaling that you work out or you're zen versus self-improvement, literacy, bettering your education versus the status around being literate, educated, and smart, because there's been this growing conversation around like how people perform that they are literate or perform their supposed intellect and demonstrate their intellect even online as a form of status. Someone on Twitter made a good point that people think it's important to be intelligent, but working to build that intelligence is not as glamorized as, again, performing that you have it, you've already obtained it. It's almost like Born Sexy Yesterday, but it's like Born Smart Yesterday vibe. Born Sexy Yesterday is a film trope where you see adult women who act really naive and childlike. Think Leeloo Dallas in the film The Fifth Element. She is like just created, but she's extremely sexy and alluring, but she doesn't know anything about the world. She's completely innocent and she has to be taught everything like a baby, but you're still expected to sexualize her. And then in terms of the way that we esteem intelligence and we esteem attractiveness, there are parallels to be drawn, you know, like we think it's good to be smart in our society in most spaces, and we think it's good to be beautiful and that there's like merit or that people have earned it. And I think that we are seeing some areas of like fashion culture, celebrities having book stylists and demonstrating their supposed intellect by holding books or associating themselves with intelligence and depth. And we're also seeing that in terms of the tight clothes that highlight, you know, I've worked out for this body, or even if I haven't, my body is so sexy that I can show it off because I've earned it, etc. It's parallel. Where it's like, if you can seem like you are hyper intelligent, using the correct terms or holding the right books, or even referencing that you know about the right books, not even reading them, understanding them, or, you know, deeply, densely describing them, just referencing the fact that you have knowledge of them existing, you've already won. I would argue that the process of building intelligence at this point is almost entirely hidden. What I wrote is, no one even notices the work that goes into learning things or acknowledging that you don't know. The expectation is that you wake up and have all the expertise. And my perspective is that right now there's a move, and there has been, toward signaling your ability to transcend aesthetically as well. Like the idea of referencing a book that can make you seem smart. And I benefit from this as well. Sometimes I'll just tweet that I'm reading a book or watching a kind of film, or that I'm near a book or holding a book or a screenshot of a book even, and people will offer me so much credit and credibility. I never said I read the book. I never said I understood it. I never said I even agreed with it. And people lend me credibility in their heads or outwardly, like, oh my gosh, you're so smart for reading this, etc., etc. And they don't even realize that they're lending me that credibility and I haven't earned it. Did I tell you anything that helped you? Did I break this down in a way that benefited you? Did I educate? Did I say I'm doing an educational seminar in person and making this information more accessible to my community? I didn't do anything, right? It's just this idea of associating myself with this intellectual object. Even associating myself with this symbol of intellectualism gives me power culturally, status culturally within these online communities. It's very interesting. And so, like I said, my perspective is that now there's a move towards signaling your ability to transcend. Billionaires are miserable. I talk about it all the time. Billionaires come online and crash out because they are miserable. And I think it has a lot to do with not engaging the arts and being obsessed with content and culture instead of the arts and actual like real life culture anyways. But they're crashing out. They're miserable. None of them are happy. They're scared. They're afraid of not being able to live forever. They're trying to do all these things, escape to Mars, like I said, live forever, prolong their lives. And I think that this ability to transcend and feel all right and connected to your reality and mentally stable and mentally well is another form of asserting status. And even in smaller communities that exist outside of billionaires, it's a point of power. There's so much cultural turmoil, and for someone to be like, I'm okay right now, I'm okay, I'm fine, I'm on the track towards being fine, I work on being fine, I attempt to be fine every day, it's also a form of asserting status and signaling your ability to transcend. Even if people are actually genuinely working on it, the outcome is that people can benefit from, sharing that with the world, right? So wearing workout gear, whether you work out or not, to signify you're on a self-improvement journey, honey. Compared to the streetwear era of fashion in the 2010s that we just recently got out of, which was more oriented around being a part of a cultural movement toward recognizing and respecting streetwear communities and streetwear legacies. The clothes were a little looser, weren't they? That's why I'm not calling it athleisure. People keep calling it athleisure. There's nothing really leisurely about these clothes. They're very tight and form-fitting. That's why there's like the BBL sweater from Lululemon and things. They're very tight. They don't look super comfortable to me. Right? Maybe it's more comfortable than wearing like a tight denim skirt or something, but these clothes don't look comfortable. They look like they signal, I am willing to sacrifice, I am willing to suffer to transcend, transcend this earthly body, transcend what I was naturally given. I'm going to build upon that. We all have big muscles. We all have, you know what I mean? Even if you don't have muscles, just the idea that I might, the suggestion, the symbol, the outfit is the symbol, the symbol that I would, ooh, baby, I'm on the right track. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's so interesting. Whereas in the past, like I said, it was more about being like, I'm in streetwear, I'm in the streetwear world. You know that if I'm in streetwear, that I know about music, culture, and hip hop, and da-da-da-da-da, and I know about, graffiti and legacies and cause and those bear things and all this other stuff, you know what I mean? These were with Kid Robot, I know about all this stuff, and the Mishka store, and I'm cool, and I'm in, and I'm hip. That was like what streetwear symbolizes. I'm in. There's a larger community of people associated with this, and I'm a part of something bigger, and I'm in. If you know, I'm in. I'm an insiders thing, whereas this is more about like, it's just me, baby. It's me by myself. I'm transcending me. I'm making the choice. I'm electing to, I chose to learn and read a book. You understand what I'm saying? The similarities. I chose to wake up and go to the gym. I do the Pilates. I'm a clean girl. It's the same to me. It's similar. It's like wellness culture, peace culture, Zen X, Zen Z now, I guess. It's individualistic, right? But I'm saying this in a neutral way. I just watched a really good video where someone was kind of critiquing a TikTok that referenced simulacra and simulacrum, Baudrillard, and they were saying like the point of that book is not to demonize people who align themselves with the representation of something, like the simulacrum. Like the point is not like you're so stupid if you think that you remember something that you didn't actually live through because you saw videos of it online. You're so stupid. It's not about that. It's about like, it just is the case that people who didn't live through something but saw photos of it online can feel that they think that they have nostalgia for a time they never lived through. That just is the case. And that's kind of what I'm saying. And I wrote this like 2 months ago, but yeah, what I'm saying is that this is neutral. Like the idea of wearing streetwear because you're representing a community versus representing Zen and, your spiritual journey as an individual, like me presenting that does not mean one is good and one is bad. It's not like the community thing is better because I said the word community. People attach and assign so much morality to every word that they think that I'm saying like things used to be so good and now people are so individualistic, especially because that's a binary and dichotomy that we have right now. There's literally nothing good or bad about either that I would use to like critique one or another. They're both bad, they're both good, they're both terrible and unnecessary, they're both essential and amazing, you know what I mean? And also there's nothing wrong with this idea of spiritual transcendence and working on yourself and self-improvement. Like I think again, because I say individualistic, people see it as a negative, and I'm like, I'm not here to scrutinize, I don't really care. Last on the docket, hello, I was so insanely excited to see this. Martine Rose dressed pro gamer in Office magazine. I don't know how this slipped by me until it looks like I wrote this in September and it happened in August. The Nike Martine Rose sports apparel collection was first revealed on the spring 2026 runway, and it has officially made its debut off the catwalk on Dominique Sonic Fox McLean. They are an award-winning video game athlete. They're the best gamer, legendary gamer, and they were dressed by Martine Rose for the EVO championship. They are a non-binary black furry. They are so cool. Oh my god, I said that naturally, and then I read my page and it says they're so cool. They use their platform to advocate for LGBTQ causes. Like, Martine Rose has taste, Nike has taste. They have taste for all partnering together. Nike partners with insanely cool people. And also, by the way, Dominique Sonic Fox McLean won for Mortal Kombat at EVO. They are very, very cool. I was so happy to see this. It's a really short write-up, but I'm like, I would love to have interviewed them on site. I would love to talk to them about how I think their work aligns with Martine Rose, who's also this like pro LGBTQ like queer advocate whose work features so many different aspects of like queer nightlife and community and culture, and I think gaming, especially furries. The gaming world and furries both are so into like community and fellowship and culture and, you know, establishing tradition and rules and expectations and things like that. And I feel like queer nightlife scene is very similar, but it's also this realm of freedom and expression. It's like these very similar like places in terms of like rigidity and freedom, and I think that there's so much overlap, and I would have loved to interview them, but I'm very happy to see this. I think this is so cool, and I think it's so interesting. Nike always does these weird things like this. I just saw this cool thing on Tumblr where somebody that I've been following for years also just had this amazing talk to talk about like how black women in the arts and I think film and other spaces are underrepresented, and then they just did this talk about this, and it was just like powered by Nike. I also went to a really cool event this summer that was like queer lesbian event on a rooftop, and it was very, very fun and had amazing DJing, and people were going crazy and like very happy. Also powered by Nike, and then they just do this. It's just very interesting that a brand like that chooses to advocate for these cool pockets of like culture, because how would you know that this is happening unless you're tapped in and know that these kinds of things are happening? And it's like they don't make it this big deal or this overt thing. It's not a part of their like larger branding that they do stuff like this. I feel like they're more oriented, I think, in the public facing eye around like health and fitness, and this is just like, I don't know, I was just really happy to see this, and I love Martine Rose. Y'all know that's like one of my favorite designers in the world, and I also am so aligned politically with what this gamer advocates for, especially furries. I'm just kidding, but on a genuine note, like what gamer advocates for, especially in the face of, you know, the culture wars around like these loser, oppressive, edgelord weirdos with like Cartman kind of humor that don't understand that like the point of Cartman is that he's a loser and not cool. And I'm really cool with people who are like, actually being nice, being a good person, and having good politics and morals is cool, because it is. And I love Martine Rose for staying true to that. I love Sonic Fox for doing that. Shout out to Sonic. These are some things that I thought were cool this week. My thing is completely out of battery, or not out of battery, out of space, because I've been talking too much. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'm sorry for being gone. I missed you. I love you, and I'll be back next week because I'm scheduling a video for next week, and then I'll schedule another one. I love ya. This was so much fun. I miss talking to you. Love ya. Also, if you want to know the things behind me, this is Blam. It's spelled like blame, but it's pronounced like blam. My brother told me. My brother got me that. This is Cyber Feminism Index. I got it at Museum of Contemporary Art in Los Angeles right around New Year's. I told you about that. This is a J Dilla Donuts toy that I got in London. And I was gonna give it to Vaughn, but I was like, I don't know if Vaughn cares about that. If Vaughn, if you're watching this, if you see this, and you do, we can share it. We can have shared custody. This is Sexual History of the Internet by Mindy Sue. These are both Mindy Sue. This is from Wise, and this is from Wise. And I got those in Paris at the Wise Yohji Yamamoto event. Okay, I love you guys. See ya later.